Okay, welcome to part 5. We're going to make a mold on this. At least I'm going to start the molding process. What I would normally do back when I was, you know, in my 30s, 20s, I'd do this all in one day. But we don't do that anymore. What we're going to do is I'm going to get a good place to start finding a seam. I want it to be right down the middle. I'm going to try to mark it with this pen if it will do it. Of course it won't. Makes a nice mark. It'll come out later. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go around the ear. I'm going to come up all the way around the ear, halfway, and then I'm going to come over here and come up the you can just see the line is nice and even. We're going to come up over the horn, and then we're going to come down from the horn. I really thought this would mark, but it didn't. I'm going to go like this, around the ear, and down about here. Trying to, do the same thing on both sides as much as possible. I come down like this, down to here, and down to here. And that should be, let's see, this is a little bit further back. This is a little bit further forward. Now what that creates is, if there were any lockup from being dead even, and there's an undercut over here, this side would pull away this way and allow this to come off. So I try never to get them exactly right down the center, although there's so much clay here that I doubt I'd have a problem. Continuing on, what I do is I take this water-based clay. It's called EM210, and it's designed basically for layup. It's different than this clay, which is, you can see, is darker because it's got lots of oils and stuff, and it's for sculpting. The nice thing is that these two clays don't like to stick to each other well, which is a good thing because it means I don't have to put a coating on this, and I can just lay the clay right against it, and then when I lay up the ultracal on one side, I can remove it very easily. It leaves very little debris behind. And what I do is I take this wire here, handle, and this handle here. I can't show you because there's no tripod, nobody here. It's a cell phone. I'm going to slice through and slice up some clay walls, and this makes all of them about that thickness, and slice them up and put them over there. So here's the clay wall all laid up. You'll probably notice this trench right here. I've been doing this ever since I worked at Don Post Studios. We did that because it would make a nice key. It's a much easier key than cutting out blocks of clay or putting in round ones. And what happens is when the rubber tries to go between the seams, which it will do sometimes, it will have to go around that little round area, and it slows it down and coagulates it before it can leak out of the mold. And that was something that they did there quite often. But you can see it's going to be a very interesting mold. If I may break the back of it into 2 halves just so I don't have any lockup, but I don't think I do. It looks pretty straight out, and yeah. So that's how we do that. Okay, continuing with part 5. Originally I was going to end it after I laid up this clay wall, but here it is the next day. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this dog, no, I'm just kidding, and I'm going to take this Ultracal 30, and I'm going to mix it up with water, just like plaster, except that it's much harder material and makes it a little harder to cast rubber in, but the advantages are great, because normally when you do a plaster mold, plaster is not that strong material, even if you use the pottery plaster #1. I've tried them all. Hydrocal is pretty good, but they all do one thing. It drives me nuts, and that is that if you got a curve to the top of the head or anything like that, the first half will kind of expand away from the sculpture, and when you do the other half, you have this little step there, and you got to grind it off before you can paint it. make it look smooth in rubber. But if you use ultracal, that doesn't happen. So also the ultracal is much stronger, and it means that I can get many, many more pulls out of it. I can make a master from it. It's a lot better. So I've got burlap standing by here, which I'm going to soak in water, and so it's nice and wet. And then, of course, that will be the second coat that gives it the strength, the ultracal, because just by itself, plaster, anything like that, you can do it without it, but it might break one day and come apart on you. It's less likely to do that with some reinforcement. This is much like rebarb. So what I'm going to do now is mix it up in the water, and I'm going to start brushing it on with the brush, and that's really all there is to it. Get the first coat on, and then we'll do the second coat. So, how you like it so far? It's what we call a splash coat, and I've still got some left down in here. Where's my spatula? Okay. You can see the consistency of it right now. It's kind of like diarrhea. If you're feeling kind of low. Anyway, and at this point, you can get it in there pretty well. You got to be careful though. It's still soft, and you can whack the clay. But I'm what you call a professional, so don't try this at home. This will set off in about another 15-20 minutes to a degree of being able to, it'll be firm enough that I'll be able to start doing the fiber coat. And I'm just, any place I see stuff that's thin, I'm just going to do that with the spatula. That way you don't have to put your hands in it. I've learned this from a lot of people, but I quickly forgot about it over the years, and I always used my hands, and I never wore gloves. And then I was with Rob Berman one day, and you know, the guy didn't even get plaster on the floor, and because he had all this control using spatulas, and I thought, you know, I remember something about that. So they work well, and you see it. Oh, you can see it kind of moving. You don't want it to slide on you. You just got to be careful. You'll learn in time working with this material that you know, its limitations. And if it starts to move on you, stop. So basically, I'm going to do this a whole bunch here. I'm trying not to get stuff on the phone. And of course I did anyway, but I'm going to do this for a while, and then I'm going to do the next coat. Yeah, we'll do the other side tomorrow. Okay. And so there we are. There. Where's the camera again? Oh, I know. Put a dot on it. Here, let me turn the camera around. There we are. Yes, there's the first half of the mold, and you can see it looks exactly like a Cyclops. So now what we have to do, of course, tomorrow is we have to remove this clay very carefully. See how it just, oh, well, I'll put it in frame. Move this clay very carefully. You see how it comes away like that? And you see what's on the other side? That's the mold. And that's hard because that's the first part. So, so we're going to remove all that tomorrow and do the back side. And I'm hoping, it looks to me like I don't have an undercut, but I'm a little frightened. So I'm going to run a seam down here, way up this side, then do this side, I think. I'll be able to tell better once I remove all of this and see if I'm seeing an undercut. It may not be, because it looks very triangular shaped and should just come right off, he says knowingly. It might crack the mold a little bit, but I don't think so. Okay, so here's the next stage. We will start removing chunks of clay and put them someplace where they won't get dirty so I can reuse them. Well, there's a thought. Right, Mary?
It's alcohol. You don't want it to spill.
So now I got some of the bracer off. I'm going to show you how this stuff comes off so easily. And if clay soft, it will damage like that. But it's no big deal. Just go back in. Look, goes new. So I'm going to kind of wiggle it. It comes loose pretty easy. And I'm starting to think there is an undercut in there. No? You see how it doesn't stick to the other clay? Because there are two types of different water-based clay, one doesn't like to stick to the other. It comes off nice and clean like that. And very expediently too, I might add. So, well, now there's little crumbs near the edge. You can just kind of knock those off. Or just take water to them and get rid of it. But you can see the result. So here you see the back's all prepared. What I did is took water-based clay and put strips of it all along the jagged edge, which normally I would take a tool to and get rid of. But what happens is you get all this material and debris on the sculpture, and you gotta get rid of it. And sometimes it scratches it, and you gotta fix it. You spend a long time with it. So I just take some water-based clay, put it over the edges. That way, when you do the back half, it can't walk up on that stuff. Even if it did, it would come loose, but you don't want that. Plus, it gives you some distance to go in between the two halves and do a little prying to get them apart. I have so much flash area here that I shouldn't have a problem. I did check it for undercuts, and I did it by taking some aluminum wire, putting it down in the corners, and then seeing if it snagged coming out, and it didn't. I mean, you can see that it's not going to do it anyway because there's no negative draft there. A molder's worst, least favorite thing. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up some ultracal and pour it on the back of this, and then put the fiber, and we will call this mold done, and we will open it tomorrow. So here we are putting on the back splash coat, and for some reason it's a little warmer today, so things are going off a lot faster. As you can see, this is getting pretty thick, so I need to go in here and get this laid up, and that means needing both hands, but you get the idea. Bingo, just like magic, here's the back of the mold, and you can see it's very cruddy on the edges, but this clay just comes away, and then I take a surfacing tool, a wood surfacing tool, a long, sort of like a big giant file with nasty teeth on it. Right, nasty teeth. Look at the bones. Anyway, Monty Python is always with me. This does look a bit like a large wooden badger, maybe a large wooden unicorn, but it's basically the mold is done, and that's how we do that. And rather than keep turning this into another part, I've decided to edit all the parts together, probably Friday, because we're going to open this mold tomorrow. Okay, here comes my least favorite part of this whole operation. I've done thousands of molds in all these years. In my current time, I'm still doing this. And I hate doing it. So let's see if I can do this with one hand. I've tapped on it a bit to get it kind of loose here and there. And you can see it's coming away very easily. And that's because of all of that freaking Vaseline I put on it. And as it turns out, you can clearly see here, we don't have an undercut. Not at all. So I was right in the end, and if I'm not careful, the whole thing's going to drop off on the floor. So what we're going to do, that's not in the mold. That's on the outside. So, oh boy. So I'm going to have to open this up while I'm not on camera. But trust me, there is no undercut that I can see. You can see it's just coming away beautifully. So I'm going to open it up. We'll come back. Here we go. We got the back off, and you can see there's no chipping on the ears. We did lose a little bit there where I was chipping in, but that's not into the surface of the mold. That's only on the outside surface. And I did a little bit of it there too, where I was getting overzealous. But it's not going to hurt a thing because the seam is just perfect. and everything's going to be fine. It's cleaning out very well. Where it counts is we don't have any damage along here at all. So it's just that got real close, but we're good. And so now I got to do is clean this thing out. Over here, we got the front half. None of this clay is worth saving. So it just comes right off. Boom, boom. And what we got to do now is get the front half off. And that's always fun sometimes. Horn comes off. He's a horny guy. And but I think the front will come off okay because we know there's no undercuts up there. I mean, these ears are just clay. That's all they are. There's nothing holding this on there. So what I'm going to do is get in there down here and pry, break it loose, and pull it forward. I've been banging on it with my fist, and it's coming off. So I don't think I can do this with one hand. That ought to be edited out for sure. So you can see that came off rather successfully. And what I have to do now is get all this clay out. And you can see how, you know, don't like iPhones, never have. They put the camera right where you grab it. Well, you can see how easily all this is coming out. And I'm just going to tug and tug on it, pull it out in one clean shot. And this mold is quite light for its size because I didn't overdo it. It's hard to tell how nice the mold is until you see it all cleaned up and I take off all these edges and stuff. You can see I had some chips on the seam line because of the way this is all at an angle. I was really worried that was going to be an undercut, but as it turned out, it was not. So what I'm going to do now is take this whole thing and wiggle it and pop it out. I wish I could show you that, but I don't have anybody here to shoot. So there we go. This is our mold, which came out very, very well. Doesn't look much, but it's got a heart of gold. And yeah, I'll be able to do a little patchwork on it on Monday. There really isn't a lot of problems at all. I'm very pleased. I need to clean the edges up a bit more, but I'm going to put it together. Okay, so here we go. I got both halves of the mold put together. And I don't know if you can see inside here very well with the phone, but I think you can kind of. It's kind of dark, but you can see how good the seam line is. Everything went together very well. Cleaned out great. And so that does it. That's how I sculpted it, molded it. And of course, the next step is going to be to put latex in it. And basically all I do is after I patch this mold and dry it out is I turn it up and then I fill it with latex and I let it sit for a good hour or two until it builds up a nice thickness. I pour it out and then the next day I pull the mask out and we paint it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and let me know if you want to see the rubber process, but really I think I've showed it before. Some of you asked for painting, we can do that too. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, because I always forget to remind you, okay? Thanks so much, you guys. We'll see you next time.